Alright, hey everybody. You are here for a quick and dirty lesson on the proof of gains from specialization and trade for both sides, even when one partner is slower at everything. Alright, so we're going to jump right in. Here is an example that we'll work from. Our production possibilities frontier gives us everything we need to figure out comparative advantage. Quantity of large jets for the U.S. is 30, or, given the same set of resources, they could produce 40 small jets. That means for every small jet, they lose the opportunity to produce 3/4 of a large jet. Likewise, if they produce one large jet, they give up the opportunity to produce 1 1/3, 4/3 small jets. Over here in Brazil's production possibilities frontier, they've got large jets on the vertical axis. 10 is their maximum if they use all their resources for large jets, or 30 small jets. So the opportunity cost of each large jet is 3 small jets, or the opportunity cost of 1 small jet is 1/3 of a large jet. So it's clear that the ratios are different. The comparative advantage is going to be different for each side. If you look at it this way, the U.S. opportunity cost for a small jet is 3/4 of a large jet, which is more than Brazil's opportunity cost of making its own small jets. So for small jet production, Brazil has the lower opportunity cost and therefore the comparative advantage. And then for large jets, Brazil comes in as more expensive, right? So this is why you see the Embraer, which is the Brazilian small aircraft, used quite a bit, because they do have perhaps a comparative advantage in small jets, but not in large jets. So it looks like U.S. has the lower opportunity cost for large jets. They face 1 1/3 small jet as their cost for each large jet, compared to Brazil's 3. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is that the initial point of consumption for both sides. So without trade, the U.S. has to produce and consume somewhere on its PPF. So assuming they are producing at their capacity, they're going to produce somewhere on this line. They happen to choose 18 large jets and 16 small jets. Meanwhile, over here, and that number is just pulled out of the air. That's just one point all along the myriad of different points on that PPF. And then for Brazil, they choose a point of 8 large and 6 small jets. The reason you want to think about that is in just a minute we're going to see how trade enables there to be more produced of both large and small jets. So here we go. If the U.S. then starts producing and specializing in the large jets that they have the comparative advantage for, and Brazil specializes in the small jets that they have the comparative advantage for, we're going to see the needle slide basically from 18 to 30 large jets for the U.S. As they specialize, they do less small jets, start focusing more on large jets, and Brazil will move the opposite direction. They'll start focusing and specializing in small jets. So if you think about it that way, we're going to get this point here and this point here, and the increase in production will be, given the same set of resources for both sides, we'll get 30 large jets at the end of the day, all produced by the U.S., which is more than before. We had 18 and 8 produced before. So we increased our large jet production. And then 22 is our new, 22 was our old production of small jets, 16 plus 6, and now we move to 30. So we gain production. So the first part of the proof is simply this. Look, more are going to be produced in a world where we allow the cheapest producers to specialize. But equally as important, we need to prove that the U.S., the faster of the two producers, will benefit. How do we know that the faster producer with absolute advantage? Because they can produce both more jets, large and small. than Brazil. So, although the U.S. has double absolute advantage, they do not have double comparative advantage, so there's a reason to trade. Let's prove that the U.S. benefits. Alright, to do that, we need to figure out what will be the consumption after trade. Some of this is just going to have to be throwing out numbers here. So I'll tell you when I'm just making up numbers and when we can actually calculate the numbers. So if the U.S. specializes in large jets, we start out with initial 30 large jets but 0 small jets. And if Brazil focuses on what it's best at, what it's cheapest at, it's going to be producing only small jets. And we're going to have to trade, right? Because both countries need both large and small. So we're going to see the U.S. want to trade away some of its large jets and get some small jets. And likewise, we're going to see Brazil trade away some of its small jets and want to get some large jets. But exactly how much? Well, both sides are happy with trading as long as the exporting country gets a profit and as long as the importing country gets a discount. So remember that it costs the U.S. 4/3 of a small jet for each large jet that it produces, its own opportunity cost, and it costs Brazil 3 small jets for each large jet that it produces. So is there some room to move between a large jet, maybe somewhere between the cost of production for the U.S., which is this, and the cost of production for Brazil, which is this? There absolutely is. Let's assume that it's something like 2, right? So let's go with, here's where I'm just picking out a number in between here. Let's say that it goes like this. The U.S. is willing to sell 1 large jet to Brazil as long as for every large jet Brazil gives us 2 small jets. Both sides are happy because the U.S. gets to sell at a profit, right, above its own cost, and Brazil gets to import at a discount below its own cost. So if we're going with 1 large jet sells for 2 small jets, then we can figure out the U.S. starts here. We send 10 jets to Brazil. So let's assume we send, and I'm coming up with that 10 number just out of the blue, but it's a good number for our uses. So we end up with 20 at the end of the day. Meanwhile, for those 10 that we send, we get 20 in return. So we end up with 20 jets and small jets in return for the 10 large jets that we send. So we end up here at this point. And Brazil has sent us 20 of their original 30. They were specializing in small jets. They send us 20, so they end up with 10 or so. And but in return, they get 10 large jets. So they end up at their blue point, also above their domestic limitations. Both sides are better off, even the U.S., because we're consuming beyond our domestic production possibility limitation, and same with Brazil. Yay, trade! Let's see, even the force agrees.